My mother leaned over during my high school graduation, looked me dead in the eye, and whispered loud enough for the entire row to hear, "Don't bother looking proud, Maya. Everyone knows you're going to amount to nothing." The guests around us gasped, but she just smiled, adjusting her pearls while my face burned with shame. 12 years later, I sat at the head of a mahogany boardroom table, holding a stack of restructuring documents. The glass door opened, and in walked the senior department manager, nervous, holding a notepad, completely oblivious to who was waiting for her. When she finally looked up from her files, the color drained from her face, and her clipboard clattered to the floor. She realized two things in an instant. The company she had dedicated the last decade of her life to had just been acquired, and her new boss was the same daughter she had humiliated in front of hundreds of people. Welcome back to BT Revenge Tales, where karma always collects its debts. Follow my story until the end, and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Maya, and I'm 30 years old. To understand how I went from an unwanted child to owning the very roof over my mother's head, you have to go back 12 years to the night of my high school graduation. I was 18, standing in my gown, holding a diploma I'd worked late nights to earn. My mother, Evelyn, had spent my entire life making one thing abundantly clear. My younger sister was her pride, and I was merely a burden. When my name was called, and I walked across that stage, I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd see a glimmer of pride in her eyes. Instead, as I sat back down, she leaned over and delivered those venomous words into my ear. The surrounding parents gasped in quiet horror. That same night, while the rest of my classmates celebrated with their families, Evelyn packed my belongings into 2 trash bags, handed me $200, and locked the front door behind me. Standing on the curb with 2 trash bags at 18 was the darkest moment of my life, but it also became my greatest fuel. I refused to let Evelyn's cruel prediction come true. I spent the next 4 years working 2 night shifts, one as a waitress and another cleaning office buildings, while attending State University on a full academic scholarship. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford, but independence was a necessity I refused to lose. Meanwhile, Evelyn rewrote history to our relatives, claiming I had abandoned the family out of coldness. I ignored the rumors and stayed focused. In my senior year, my roommate and I recognized a massive gap in supply chain logistics software. Working out of our cramped dorm room on hand-me-down laptops, we built the prototype for what would eventually become our startup. For 8 long years, while my mother assumed I was struggling, I was quietly building an empire from the ground up. While I was quietly laying the bricks for my future, the family I left behind was steadily crumbling. My younger sister, Chloe, the golden child who could do no wrong, had been handed every advantage on a silver platter. Evelyn paid her full college tuition, bought her a luxury car, and financed a lavish lifestyle she never earned. But entitlement is a terrible business model. By 26, Chloe's reckless spending and complete lack of work ethic had burned through her inheritance, leaving her deeply in debt with a failed career. Desperate to maintain their illusions of wealth, Evelyn was forced out of her comfortable retirement and back into the corporate workforce. She landed a middle management role at Aero Logistics Corp., a regional logistics firm. But age hadn't softened Evelyn's sharp edges. She brought the exact same toxicity to her office that she'd brought to our home, ruling over her junior staff with condescension and arrogance, completely unaware that her house of cards was about to collapse. By my late 20s, our logistics technology firm was generating millions in profit, and we began aggressively expanding by acquiring struggling regional competitors. When Aero Logistics Corp landed on my desk as a prime buyout target, I didn't initially realize the personal connection. It was just another strategic asset with operational inefficiencies. But as I flipped through the personnel files during due diligence, my eyes landed on a familiar name and face, Evelyn. Seeing her employment records brought a flood of memories, but I remained strictly professional. I ordered a deeper internal audit of her department and discovered a disturbing pattern. Evelyn wasn't just managing her team, she was actively bullying junior employees, taking credit for their work, and creating a toxic environment that was draining the company's bottom line. The acquisition went through quietly in a $30 million deal. Evelyn had no idea the firm had changed hands, nor did she know who was now holding the pen. On my first official visit to Aerologistics HQ as the new CEO, I scheduled a mandatory department review. I sat at the head of the executive boardroom table, surrounded by my legal team and corporate advisors. When the door opened, Evelyn walked in holding a leather portfolio, her head held high with the same familiar arrogance. She didn't look at my face at first, busy adjusting her jacket and assuming she was about to present to a stranger. "Good morning, executive team," she began, her tone rehearsed and patronizing. Then, her eyes finally met mine. The words caught in her throat. The color drained from her face, and her portfolio slipped from her hands, scattering papers across the floor. "Maya," she gasped, her voice trembling as she scrambled to piece together the reality before her. In front of the entire board, she tried to force a warm, motherly smile. "My sweet girl, look how far you've come." I looked back at her with absolute silence. I didn't smile back, nor did I acknowledge her desperate attempt to play the loving mother. I calmly tapped the stack of audit reports resting on the mahogany table. "In this boardroom, I am not your daughter, Evelyn. I am the chief executive officer of the company that now owns your contract." The board members shifted in their seats as I laid out the stark reality. Months of documented HR complaints, stolen work from junior staff, and severe operational mismanagement under her supervision. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for allies, but found none. "You can't do this to me," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I'm your mother." I looked her dead in the eye. My mother told me 12 years ago that I would amount to nothing. Instead of firing her outright, which would give her an easy severance payout, I gave her a choice: accept an immediate demotion to entry-level associate, reporting directly to the junior staff she had bullied, or resign on the spot with zero benefits and no recommendation. Evelyn stood frozen, the harsh fluorescent lights exposing every line of shock and defeat on her face. With mountain-high debts and Chloe relying on her income, she had no choice. She swallowed her pride, signed the demotion papers, and took her seat in a cramped cubicle, answering to the very junior employees she had spent years mistreating. She watches me walk through the office now with a silent, heavy regret, knowing that the daughter she discarded is the only reason she has a paycheck. Looking back at my journey, that awful night at graduation didn't destroy me. It gave me the fire to build my own legacy on my own terms. Today, I live in complete financial freedom, surrounded by people who value me for who I am, proof that the best revenge is simply living well. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have given her a second chance, or enforced the demotion? Comment your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to click the video on your screen for another crazy tale right here on BT Revenge Tales.